Good day, everyone. This is John Kogan, the CEO of Performative, the online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I would like to welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled A CFO's Story, When It's Time to Upgrade Financial Systems and Do It Right. There's no denying a CFO's job continues to become increasingly complex. The last thing the Office of the CFO needs is accounting and financial systems that fail to address critical business needs, including compliance issues, an effective financial close process, complex business processes, and company growth. How do you know when it's the right time to upgrade your financial systems? How do you accurately assess your company's current and future needs and find the right solution in the new age of cloud computing? This webinar will feature the CFO of the Blue Shield of California Foundation, Scott Travosos, as well as another subject matter expert who will discuss the telltale signs that let finance leaders know it's time for a new accounting solution at their company. Scott will also share his path to cloud-based systems and ultimately the powerful impact that cloud accounting apps have had on his organization. We have a few items before we get started today. Number one, a thanks to Financial Force. Everything that we do at Performative is at no cost to our users, members, and otherwise, and it's due to the generosity and support of sponsors like Financial Force that we are able to do this. So we greatly appreciate their support in this event this morning, also in helping us pull together the wonderful content and speakers for today's event. So thank you to Financial Force. A few notes about Performative. If you're new to Performative, we are the largest and fastest growing online community of corporate finance, treasury, accounting, and related professionals. It's a very large community of folks, and it is a singular and unique resource for these professionals online. It's a great way to get the advice and insight of tens of thousands of CFOs, controllers, treasurers, and the like, all for free in a completely ad-free and noise-free environment. If you haven't had time to check it out, please do at performative.com. A few notes about this event in particular. Number one, a link to today's presentation and a link to the video of this presentation will be sent out to all attendees within 24 hours of the event and will be posted on performative.com. In fact, this deck is already posted at performative.com/resources. So if you would like to grab a copy, follow along, print it out, make notes, etc., it's there. It's ready for your download. Of course, it's free like everything else on Performative. We are offering CPE credits for today's event. If you would like to get CPE credit, let's make sure that you take the 3 polling questions that we will have during the course of today's webinar. So we will, at 3 different periods during today's webinar, ask 3 polling questions. They are statistical in nature. We actually ask that everyone take the 15 seconds and give us your answers, and then we'll actually take a look at the results of these quick polls when we get into the Q&A section of today's event. But if you're here for CPE credit, you really must take those CPE polling questions. We encourage you to ask questions today. We have 2 wonderful subject matter experts, or actually 1 practitioner in the CFO of the Blue Shield of California Foundation, and another subject matter expert who are here to answer questions. It's a great opportunity, and we encourage you to take advantage of that. Finally, when we finish up today, there will be a brief survey. It takes about 60 seconds, just a handful of yes, no, and click the mouse type questions. We greatly appreciate your feedback because it allows us to get better every time we do one of these. So please give us that 60 seconds, and we would greatly appreciate hearing from you. Also, during that survey, you can just quickly click your mouse once again and request to be connected with a member of Financial Force, who is our sponsor today, if you have follow-up questions for them. So we make that very simple to do. We have a number of learning objectives today, but one of the main elements is that you will come away from this with a better understanding of, well, cloud-based accounting and financial systems, but also when might be the right time for you and your company to consider looking at a new accounting and financial platform for yourselves. That's, speaking as a 4-time CFO myself, that's a vexing issue that always seems to follow finance, accounting, and related folks around. Are we on the right system? When's the right time to move to a new system? And of course, what's out there? what should I look for, how do I look for it, etc. So we'd like to cover all of these issues today to the extent that we can. Joining us today to help us in our quest is my pleasure to introduce actually two speakers. I'll introduce both of them right now. And the first speaker will be Tom Brennan. Tom is a Vice President at Financial Force. Tom has over 20 years experience in the financial software space and is a pioneer in the application service provider or ASP market, serving as a founding board member of the ASP Industry Consortium. Previously, he was Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Coda, a developer of financial software for multinational companies. Tom went on to become Vice President of Sales and Marketing at the Taylor Group, where he helped develop the firm into an award-winning Microsoft Business Solutions partner and application service provider. He most recently served as President of Proactus, Inc., where he successfully launched the company's North American operations. Tom holds a BS in accounting from Mount St. Mary's University and an MBA in marketing and international business from American University. And joining Tom today will be Scott Travosos, who is the CFO of the Blue Shield of California Foundation. Prior to joining the foundation, Scott served as controller and director for the global nonprofit Business for Social Responsibility, a recognized leader in corporate sustainability strategy. Previously, he founded and acted as executive director of Greater Goal, an international nonprofit that uses sports as a medium to build life skills for underserved youth. He worked on projects on 6 continents and in countries such as China, Myanmar, Yemen, Brazil, and South Africa. A sports enthusiast, Scott worked for the 1996 Olympics as president and director of finance for a professional soccer team and currently serves on the board of directors for the Bay Area Sport Organizing Committee. Scott holds a BA in Business and Communications from Wheaton College and an MBA from Wake Forest University. Well, Tom and Scott, thanks so much for joining us today. And Tom, I will ask you to take it away.
Hey, well, thank you, John, and thank you, everyone, for attending today. Our agenda today is really broken into 2 parts. First, I'm going to start off, and I'm going to talk about when is it time to upgrade, some of the reasons why you might change accounting systems. And then we're going to have Scott come in for the majority of the time and talk about his experience, the situation he was in at Blue Shield, why he made the change, and why he went to cloud computing for his systems. So with that, let's kind of go into the next section. So to get myself organized for this webinar today, I've, as you probably heard from my bio there, I've been in the industry for quite a while, and I've seen a lot of different reasons why people change systems. So I was looking for something to help structure all my thoughts. And lo and behold, friend and analyst Brian Sommer had done a white paper on changing and evaluating accounting systems, and he did a really nice job in structuring the reasons why people change. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this framework from Brian to kind of lead us through the discussion. Some of the thoughts are certainly inspired by Brian, but also some of the experiences I've had that I'll sprinkle in throughout. And incidentally, if you're interested in getting the evaluation guide that he's done, we can make that available to you if you want to contact me for that. So before we get going, we mentioned there was going to be poll questions, and one of the things that I talked to the analysts about quite a bit is the whole idea of accounting software churn. How often does it happen? How long do people keep their systems? And eventually there's some pretty natural churn points that I've seen in the industry over 30 years. But what we thought we wanted to just do here is to gauge our audience. If you could, we'd go to the poll, John, take them through the poll on how long.
All right, so let's go ahead and launch the first polling question, which I'm doing right now. And this question is very simply, how long have you been using your current accounting software? As I noted, if you're here for CPE credit, you must take all 3 of the polls. But even if you're not, we'd love to know. This will be interesting statistically, and we'll actually turn this around and show everyone when we get into the Q&A segment of today's webinar. So we can all see what our peers are doing on this front. We'll go ahead and leave this out for another 10 seconds or so. I'll also remind you that you can ask questions at any point in time via the question area of your GoToWebinar control panel. Okay, I think that's about it. I'll go ahead and close that down, and Tom, we'll hand it back over to you at this point.
Great, thanks, John. Let's go back one here. So the first category that Brian identified were business-driven reasons to change. And The situation here that I've seen over the years is fundamentally the app that you've got doesn't fit where you are today. And there could be a number of different characteristics behind that. But the first one generally has to do with business processes. So you might be a company that's grown quite a bit and you've got some systems that are not very automated, they're under-automated, or they might be manual. In fact, it's really still surprising to me how many times when we go into a company and they've got systems built on Excel or Microsoft Access. Excel is a great tool, of course, for a lot of things, but people have really built applications in it. And of course, there's lots of issues with that related to control and all kinds of other things and volumes. So that's often one big area that we see people make the leap to a new system. The next one is related to disconnected systems and people, and I think Scott will talk a little bit about this as well. But back, say, late 80s, early 90s, when I was in the industry working in accounting systems, the big thing then was an integrated accounting system. And I think where we are today, an integrated accounting system is, table stakes. But what's getting more important is the integration between all your operational systems. So, for instance, the integration between CRM and receivables, as an example, or from the opportunity to cash process. And the other thing that's happened, I think, with the economy and a lot of the downscaling that happened, in the last hiccup we had here in the economy, companies have reduced the size of their staffs and their accounting staffs, and they're very, very lean. And so CEOs and CFOs are trying to get their companies to work together as a team, to participate together on things. It's not as hierarchical or departmental as it was in the past. And so you're trying to get people to work together, say, to help collect money from an account. You want sales and AR actually helping to do that, not just lop it over the fence to AR people to collect money, as an example. And so what we're seeing is that a lot of companies are trying to find ways to bring their companies together, and it starts with the systems that they've got. Then the next thing, and it was alluded to here earlier, is long cycle times. And this can happen on multiple sides of the ledger, but you could have close problems where you're trying to get through the end of the month process. You may have to speed up your opportunity cash process. Maybe there's too many steps in the process in terms of manual labor, but also it's causing you trouble getting invoices out the door to collect the cash. Also can happen over on the AP side. You might be spending too much to buy things, and you want to reduce the cost of acquiring goods or services. So each business is a little different, but there might be a cycle time in your company that you really need to crush in order to perform better as a business. And the next reason is not as pleasant, maybe, and that's a directive by an auditor or banker, and it's telling you that you need to change things, typically to improve controls. And we usually see this in smaller companies or growth companies that are on an entry-level bookkeeping system of some kind or entry-level accounting system that doesn't have the controls you would need to, say, go public, including things like, the ability or the ability to enter one-sided entries. Some systems allow you to do that, or to change transactions after the fact to go into a previous period. So as you get bigger, you've got to have better controls than that. And some of the entry-level systems really have problems in that area. The other thing that happens when you grow is the volumes grow, and the volumes might break the physical structure of the system. The database that it's built on might not handle it, but then also the accounting processes around it might take too much time. If the system was built for smaller volumes, you may not have some of the niceties you need, say, like an AR to do background cash matching in an automated way, so you don't have to match everything manual, as an example. Then the last thing there is you might be, as you grow, you're getting more sophisticated, so you may need more accounting capabilities and more things like reporting. So let's look at the next reason, and this is something I've seen over the years in my career. Is that every wave of technology changed systems. So just in the time I've been in business, my first job out of college, we were putting in accounting systems to replace ledger card posting systems, and then we were doing that typically with mainframes, and then we moved into mini computers. Then we went to client server. Then we went to browser-based systems here in the early 2000s, or some form of browser or over the internet-based system, and now we're at cloud-based systems. So every technology churns accounting systems for lots of reasons. And one of the best ones is you want to leverage new technology, but one of the ones you need to be worried about is that your technology is going to be obsolete. And as you start skipping a generation or two, you're going to be increasing your risk in terms of the ability to get supports and the skills that you need to keep those applications running. So a lot of companies will turn just because of that as well. One of the big factors in that obsolescence is we see, for instance, in the old AS400 space, people built a lot of great custom apps for their systems, and they ran well for the business, but it's time to move on. And the person who built them was building them in a language that no one else knows anymore, and the skills can't be found. And so you need to get away from those operational systems. And if you build custom systems like that operationally, sometimes that also turns you to make a change to change your accounting systems along with those custom apps you built for the business. And in many cases, you can find a great app out, say on the App Exchange, for instance, to download and to serve that vertical purpose. So that's often changing those operational systems will often make you make the move. Then the next is a new IT strategy, as I alluded to with those different iterations of technical platforms. That does tend to move things on. Sometimes your IT team will say, for the good of the business, we need to move the whole organization in a particular direction on a particular platform. Is typically what happened in the past. The trend now is to move to the cloud and into various cloud platforms that are out there. And Scott will actually talk a lot about some of the reasons for doing that. One of the big ones is just the total cost of ownership in doing that. And so that's what we see. A lot of companies are looking at the dollars they're spending today on running systems and maintaining them and paying maintenance fees for them. And those dollars are going into just maintaining the software, not moving the business forward. So, as you'll see with the cloud, it costs you less to run it, but the better thing to me is that the money you are spending isn't going into maintaining, it's going into things that you can build to differentiate and build around your business. Then the last thing, of course, with each of these technologies, for example, the client-server world was the Windows interface versus green screen. There was new things that people would take advantage of. Now we're seeing it with the cloud. 24/7 access is much easier. And this is real important with the distributed workforces, people working from home and small offices. You'll see Scott here is going to talk about the use of social media. Is a great new thing that comes part and parcel with a lot of cloud apps these days that you can take advantage of. And I'll leave that to Scott to talk about that. And of course, mobile, better reporting and collaboration tools. So any of these could be fundamentally a fundamental reason why you change. So then the next one, I've combined a couple of Brian's categories here. And that is there are changes in the business in some way or directives that have come down corporately. And the first one is we've seen often is someone might be familiar, the president or a CFO might be familiar with the system, go to a new job and say, I want to take everything out and I want to put in System X. And that's, it happens fairly often. If you are in that situation, I'd be careful of that because you still need buy-in from everybody on the team to make sure it's successful. So just beware if you're in that spot. The second thing is we see an awful lot of global expansion will cause people to change, and that might mean languages, different tax regimes, multi-currency, multi-company, or really the combination of all those things together. Because you'll see some systems can handle, say, currency in one company, but you can't do, say, an intercompany journal between two companies with two different currencies, as an example. So it's that complication that might drive you out of a domestic-based system into a multinational-based system. Then the next, really 3 or 4 here really come together, and that is that businesses change and they're very dynamic. And a lot of the older systems, they're very rigid and they're difficult to change. And so you might have change in your business model or doing reorganizations, and that causes problems and literally breaks the system. So for instance, many times what we see is in the older systems in the chart of accounts, there'll be a concept called a code block. And you have to define the code block in a similar way for everybody in a company, every line of business in a company, maybe for every company that you've got. And so people have to follow the same regime in terms of numbers of digits, the sequences, which ones are used. You may have to zero fill if someone has a big, long project accounting number in there. You may not need it. You might have to zero fill, things like that. So that some of the old chart of account structures, that code block really describes it well. They're very rigid. And so it makes it difficult when you take on a new line of business that's a little different than what you've done, and then causes a whole issue around redesigning the chart of accounts, which is a big project. So a lot of the new systems, of course, are much better at that. So that alone can be one big reason to change it. If you're in the entry-level world, you may have great little entry-level bookkeeping or accounting system, but the chart of accounts is very limited. And so that will force people to move forward. And what all this means, I think, really in the structural components is the ability then to capture the information you need on the business and report on it. And if you're changing the business a lot, you're doing reorgs, you can't be stuck to a hard-coded chart of accounts, for instance, to do all your reports. You need other structures to do that are easy to change. So all this stuff in the end, the change and the impact on reporting can really drive people into getting a new system. And then the last category is vendor-driven decisions, and this is a little bit like the bankers, maybe not quite as bad, I guess, but this is when the vendor kind of pushes you to the edge to make a decision. And what's happened over the last 10 years in particular, there's been a huge consolidation of financial applications in the software industry. And so where once there were maybe 50 different packages out there, they're owned by, say 10 companies in total now. There's an interesting site out there called the ERP Graveyard, if you ever get a chance to look at it, and they keep a scorecard of all the acquisitions that a lot of the big companies have done. And so what's happened is and it's sort of a funny site to look at, but the sad fact is a lot of as a result of the consolidation, vendors can't keep maintaining all these different 40, 50 apps that are out there. So they're starting to drop support or fade back from it, reduce the number of enhancements they're doing for different applications. And that's not a great thing. If you're sitting there paying maintenance dollars for something, you're not getting anything back for it. The other thing that's happened is a lot of the vendors now, particularly with the cloud, have decided, hey, we're going into the cloud world, and they have to transition. And your company may have made a different decision, maybe a different cloud as an example, and that may force you to say, you know what, this vendor that I've got today isn't going the same way we're going, and that'll push you to it as well. And so then the last thing here is a lot of this sort of all this activity, M&A activity in the industry has caused a lot of suppliers to jack up their maintenance fees, the costs, and again on the older systems, a lot because of the skill set shortage issue on the older systems, you get higher and very unpredictable costs in running your systems. And as I was saying with the the TCO discussion earlier, a lot of your money is going into maintenance, and in fact, it's going into maintenance dollars that are not necessarily coming back in the product you're using today. They're actually going into funding a new cloud app for that vendor. So if that's what's happening, you might as well go to a cloud app vendor and have your maintenance or your license fees, subscription fees pay for your actual app. So that's 5 of the reasons what might push you over the abyss, if you will, into changing systems. You might have one of those or all of those. So now what I'd like to do now is introduce Scott Travosos, and Scott will take you through his situation at Blue Shield and talk about what his situation was, why he chose cloud computing. But one of the reasons why we also asked Scott is that he's done some very advanced things with social media in his department and was recognized recently on CFO magazine for that, on the cover no less, and Ventana Research recently awarded him a Business Leadership Award for doing innovative things with his finance team, and particularly with social media. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Scott Travosos. Scott?
Well, thanks a lot, Tom. Pleasure to join everyone today. Special welcome to everyone, especially those in the Northeast. I know I live in California now, but I grew up in South Florida and know full well the effect hurricanes can have. And just thanks for joining us today. I thought the title was interesting. When is it time? You could ask, when is it time? When is it time to get married? When is it time to have a kid? When is it time to change your job? When is it time to exercise? And the age-old answer always is there's never a good time. And I think what's happened, especially in finance, is that people are waiting for the perfect time, and there's just not that perfect time. And so I'll walk you through a number of different things, but I'm telling you a little preview of where I'm going is the time is now. And that's not to necessarily mean that it's tomorrow, but it's to start making the plan for your change. I think the benefits you'll see by going to this system over some of the old systems are quite tremendous. So first of all, how did I know it was time to upgrade? So prior to us going on financialforce.com, we had separate systems, and I'll talk a lot about this today. But we had a CRM system, an accounting system. We had an industry-specific system. Of course, we all love our Microsoft Office products. We had a reporting system. And what we were developing in our organization was a lot of people who were great at individual systems, and that there was almost no cross-training going on. From a CFO perspective, that just terrified me. I also know that we weren't getting efficiencies, and I also knew that if we had a not optimal employee in one of those areas, we were in real trouble. We had outdated systems and processes, and I don't mean outdated from the necessarily couldn't be upgraded or we couldn't get our work done, but outdated in that we were using the same model that was being used 20, 30, 40 years ago, that we were waiting for someone in a back corner cubicle to process something. There wasn't much collaboration. There really was no process except Shelly's going to get it done, or John's going to get it done, or Amy's going to get it done. Control over data manipulation, I'd say we didn't have the controls we wanted on the system we came off immediately, although I've been on a number of different systems. It was too easy to backpost or do different sort of approvals. And of course, we relied so heavily on Excel. And we all know the joys of Excel and how things can be manipulated, most of the time not on purpose, most of the time by error. But I didn't feel like I was in control of our data. And weak internal communications. We'll touch on this later, and you might ask how this relates, but I think I'll tie it in. But we were an email-based system. Everyone would sit and wait in the organization to get an email from finance, and I didn't think that was a good model. So why did the cloud make sense for us? Everything else is going to the cloud. We'll keep talking about this today. Finance and accounting are already seen as laggards by many other departments. The last thing you want to work for is an department that constantly makes their accounting jokes, constantly makes their finance jokes. I was just actually at a conference yesterday where someone made one of those jokes that we all love to hear. They don't see us as cutting edge, and frankly, that's really not a fun place to be. Our employee engagement was down, and I won't spend a lot of time on this here because I'll talk about it later, but this is a huge reason why we went to the cloud, and to be able to leverage other cloud products. I haven't heard anyone say who uses kind of an old mainframe database system. Yeah, we're using this old system because we leverage other products. Just doesn't happen. Of course, what else was important was the financial reasons why. Why was it time for us to go? And Tom touched on this a little bit. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but essentially what is shown is, if you see to the far right, the on-premise system is much more expensive. And generally speaking, your annual cost for a cloud-based system and your annual cost of just the service itself for a legacy system are about the same. But what you eliminate is server cost and personnel cost. There are other things in there, but those two things are huge. And not only the cost of those things, but also if something goes down, if your server goes down, if you make a bad hire in IT, or if that person just isn't getting the job done. So specifically, though, what are some of the advantages of finance in the cloud? What makes them better than some of the legacy systems? I think there's a few things. I think one is customization. And some people on this call wouldn't have customized their systems at all, but many of us have. And in the old system, customization is something that's very difficult to do and very costly, and relying on consultants. In the new cloud world, a lot of times the customization, especially on certain ones, can just be done by someone on your staff. And if not, generally speaking, it's a developer who's familiar with your system, and it's a pretty easy process. And you can do some really neat things with customization. One of them that we did, I'll touch on later. Updates. In old system, updates were always, for me, one of the bane of my existence. Once a year, once every 2 years, you have to shut everything down, bring a consultant in, hope it went well, hope you didn't lose your data. And these new systems, new finance in the cloud, it's most of the time a quarterly update. Normally happens overnight. You don't even have to do anything about it, and it's really customer driven. They're able to make real-time changes. It's not waiting for the next deployment cycle that's 18 months out to get a little bug fixed. They can fix those bugs very easy. No need for VPN access. This was a huge one for us. The workplace is changing. The days of having employees that sit in their desk from 8:30 to 5:30 every day, we know are getting harder and harder to find those employees. Employees are traveling around on business and visiting business units. Employees are working from home. Employees are dealing with sick kids. And whenever we had to get in, our old system was on VPN access. It may or may not work. And it was incredibly slow and incredibly inefficient. With Finance in the Cloud, you can set up your security protocols anywhere, so you can allow certain people to only access it on the office IP and other people to access it on other IPs, but you can really set up your workflow how you want to. Mobile. We have the ability to access our financial data on mobile. And if you go to any technology conference right now, everyone is saying the future is mobile. We do not, I have to be candid in that we don't use a lot of mobile right now. I think a couple times last year on my iPad I approved a journal or what have you. But I can do dashboards and what have you, but we know this is where things are going and we want to be part of that. Application adoption speed, and the application markets, App Exchange. I want to spend a minute or two here. Tom touched on this briefly. But I don't think if you're not in the cloud, you can't understand the importance of this. And the way I relate it is to cell phone. I would say that if 90% of the people on this call went out to get a new cell phone tomorrow, and budget didn't matter, that they would get either an Apple or an Android phone. And it may not be because, most likely because those aren't the best phones, but it's because the apps that come with that. Frankly, Apple doesn't do a whole lot with their phone. They allow you to get the best apps in the world on your phone. And that is what has really changed the cell phone revolution. Well, the same thing can happen with the App Exchange. And I'll talk about this later, we use the Force.com platform. And it's not that we're necessarily purchasing apps that sit right on top of our accounting system, but we're purchasing apps that sit alongside. They sit in the same environment, and there's opportunity to tie in workflow. And this has been a significant win for us, and I only see this changing more rapidly as we go forward. Other advantages for us, approval rules, we were able to do some of that customization and set up how we wanted our organization to actually do the nuts and bolts of accounting and set up some rules and processes much easier. We can be online 24/7 anytime. This, to me, has been of huge value benefit in particular. We also have workflow advantages that it's a familiar platform to non-finance staff. And by non-finance staff, I would say people not currently in their roles. So that can be if we're pushing out reports on a similar platform, or that's if we're bringing in a new employee. We really don't have to do the days of doing a job description and asking if you know AS this or SL this or X this. They really can be familiar. If they're familiar with the platform, they can get up to speed on the finance relatively quickly. On the next slide, some more advantages, dashboards. I can't emphasize this enough. Business analytics is growing leaps and bounds, and the days of executives waiting in their office for a finance report and dashboards to come at the exact time that they don't have 3 other meetings or on a plane that they can actually sit down and read it are very difficult. I'm sure each of you have some of the same frustrations I have, and that you spend a lot of time on reports and people don't actually use them. With Cloud Finance, for us with Financial Force and Salesforce, we're able to push those reports out on a real-time basis. And we're able to push them to every user or to select users or to departments, and we're able to customize them. So the marketing department's dashboard is going to look different than the sales department's dashboard and what have you. That's been huge for us. I think for small and medium businesses, Cloud Finance is ready to go, full speed. And by medium, I mean very large, sophisticated entities. The time is now. For large businesses, there's been a little bit slower uptake of switching your whole accounting system over, but what you see is our people are really stepping up and taking different pieces. They're taking the accounts receivable piece, or a number of entities are just exporting out their general ledger into the new platform and capitalizing some of the reporting as they build it out and bring up the speed, because we know that can be a long time. One thing I don't focus very much on this talk that I'll just mention briefly now is, how to actually switch over. And I really think it depends 100% on the size and complexity of your organization. And I think if you're, a relatively small organization, and I'm going to put relatively small at 100 million and under, I think you can switch over pretty quickly. I think you can get your lead time, you can align things up, and you can go ahead and make the switch over. If you're over 100 million, 250 million, 500 million, I think you're going to probably do a phase-in approach where you're going to take pieces of the accounting system, phase those in and integrate so you get complete confidence and comfortability and go ahead and make the switch over. Some other advantages are security. Every time I do this talk, there's inevitably a question, are you concerned about the security? And I'll just say I'm concerned more about the security of my system before I was on the cloud. It was based on my IT technician setting up the server the right way and making sure they did the backup accurately. I've yet to hear of an example where Salesforce lost someone's data or Google lost someone's data. It's frankly very comforting me to be on the cloud, and I think the security is right there. Contracting. So for us, we were able to tie in a business process, and this is kind of what I talked about from doing different apps and what have you. In Salesforce, we were able to have all our contracts are now done paperlessly, and they're used DocuSign. But to get a little accounting geeky, what we're able to do with this cloud-based system is when we generate an electronic contract in Salesforce, the second a contract number is generated, we actually track that in our fourth dimension, or our fourth sub-account in Financial Force. And that contract immediately gets aligned in the dimension, and then we can pay off that, we can track it, we can do our individual tracking. So we don't need a third-party procurement app that integrates with our financial system. It's right there native in the system. And usability, I've touched on this a little bit, more flexibility with worker location, easier access when traveling, and improved engagement with millennials and others, which honestly would be in one of the top 3 reasons why we switched over, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Okay, one cloud approach. When to change? When we talk about when to change, I think part of it is looking, what do you want your long-term cloud strategy to be? I think most of us, if we sat back and we were the CIOs of our organizations, we wouldn't come up with the following scenario. I think I want to run Microsoft Office about 5 years behind cycle. I want finance to have its own independent system. I want sales to have its own CRM. We'll have another reporting system like Tableau or something that's out there. And we'll have all these systems, and we'll try to hire someone with some API background to interface. I don't think that's what any of us would choose. If so, I'm probably not going to be looking for you as my next CIO. But all kidding aside, I think there's a couple options out there when you're looking at going to the cloud. And one is choosing the best of class and not really worried about the integration. That's certainly an acceptable solution, but I think there will come challenges as we move down the road. The other is kind of choosing who you're going to go with. Microsoft is making a big push in this area. Google is making a big push in Google Enterprise and having some of the third-party apps integrate seamlessly with Google Enterprise. And what we chose was the Force.com platform from Salesforce. We now have our organization, with the exception of Microsoft Office, which we're in the process of phasing out of, every single system we use in our office is on the Force.com platform. And what that's done for us is a number of things. We have a single sign-on, which we know can be complicated. We have significantly improved uptake from employees in and out of finance. It's one system. It looks familiar. It's easy to use. It's not complicated. We have synergies with contacts. We have one contact record for payees, for phone calls with people, what have you, that anyone in the organization can see. Alignment with contracts I spoke about earlier, and alignment with social media, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Again, employee engagement has gone up significantly. It's a familiar interface to everyone in our organization, no matter what they're working on. It allows cross-training. It allows help with some of the simple features. Especially it allows our finance staff and accounting staff to get help with using the system and things that aren't super accounting or finance in nature, just basics of the system. And ease of use. And I'm saying ease of use inside and outside the walls. You just have to be able to connect to the internet, and you can use it. So with that, I'm going to do a slight transition. And what I want to talk about here is something that was hugely important to our decision, is why does the B2B experience need to trail the home experience? On a future slide, I have the CEO of Ripple says the expectation now is that the tools people use at work are easy and as fun as the one they use in their personal life. I know right now my 11-year-old communicates socially. And he's not a geek. He's not on it all the time. He's just on it a little bit of time, but he can communicate socially. And he does it because it's easy, it's effective, and it's fun. And so why in B2B are we using systems that I would say are arguably not easy? They might be effective, but maybe not as effectively like them, and they're certainly not fun. What I'm calling this is the Facebook revolution. You can call it whatever you want. But certainly you could apply Twitter or LinkedIn here. I recently wrote a blog on my Blue Shield of California Foundation website that's called Cloudify, just taking things to the cloud. But this is showing from 2010 to 2011 the astronomical growth in Facebook and social media. There have been a number of articles written about this. In fact, our own good-looking Tom Brennan from Financial Force says, "Why do I need a Facebook in finance?" And his article is talking about social accounting and how accounting can be fun and effective for others. But this slide I'd like to just spend a minute on is if you look at social users versus email users, the projection is that more people around the world will be using social than will be using email. And just think about that for a second. Think about if email does go away, which I'm a firm believer that in the next 3, 4, 5 years, email will go away. It will still be used for probably some contracting for certain things or super high-level correspondence with people outside the organization. But I think inside the organization, email is going to go away. Wouldn't you want to have your system that you're using for finance be able to take advantage of that and not be standalone from that? And for us, the answer clearly was yes. I think we all work in virtual companies now. The day of having a headquarters and having one whole floor dedicated to finance or accounting and everyone sitting there and being there all the time, I think we all know are gone. It used to be that maybe only the executives and the sales teams were out of the office. And I think we all know they're even out of the office and on their computer even less right now. But even our teams are starting to spread out. And some people say we are starting to work socially, but I'd say we're really working socially the hard way. And you can see this is a little bit dated with the BlackBerry on there. But, you know, we have a phone system. You have an internal phone system. You might use Skype. You have email. You have all these different social systems. They're really not integrated. And so getting social was extremely important for us. I'm just going to pause here a second and bring everyone up to speed on corporate social media. I think some of the people on the call probably know about this, and this will be just a quick 2-minute review. But for those who don't, we're not talking about bringing Facebook per se into the office. There's pretty much 3 main players in this space. The first one, a company I've used in the past, which is good, is Yammer. They have 5 million corporate users as of April 2012 and just closed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Microsoft. They're now a division of Microsoft, so you can see how Microsoft is recognizing this need. Jive is the largest individual platform right now. It is just a standalone platform. It's not integrated with everyone else. And what we personally use is Chatter, which is, these were through 2011. I know the numbers have had a staggering growth, especially as they've released this within Salesforce. What can social media do for your organization? Social media can really help improve communication. It can help increase the speed of communication in your office across your network of collaborators. It can also serve as a great repository for information. It can improve engagement within finance, specifically with millennials. And I'm just going to pause here to tell you an example. We had an employee who, before we switched over to the new cloud platform, was really struggling, not engaged, frankly not doing a very good job. Even though they were given effort, the question was, are they going to be able to stay here? And this was a key employee to us. Well, in a matter of months, after switching over to Financial Force and the Force.com platform, this person became incredibly engaged. It wasn't necessarily that their knowledge base went up. It just started becoming a system that was familiar to them and a system that was exciting. They started really engaging on the reporting module in particular and some of the analysis that they could run that they just couldn't figure out before with their series of F12s and Control-Alt-This and what have you. They they really became engaged, and their work performance took off. And a lot of people say, well, that's great about millennials, but it holds true for my non-millennials as well. They're excited to learn something new. They might be resistant to change at first, but I've found after 30 to 60 days, people are very excited. It's also improved engagement for those out of the office. I'm sure you, like me, at least once a week, someone's kid is homesick at school or what have you, and it used to be then that was a down day for that employee getting everything work done. And we now have the possibility with social media and our platform to be able to work from home. It's also significantly improved our engagement outside of finance. We use social media in that we use it very actively within our finance department. And you can set up a finance group and other groups within your department. And then we also have an organizational department, a leadership team department. And what we've been able to do is improve our finances engagement with the executive team, with the budget owners. You can also see a significant improvement with sales. And I think we're going to pause there and take a quick polling question.
Yep, here comes polling question number 2 on your screen now. Asking about what kind of collaboration tools are used, if any. Today, once again, if you're here for CPE credits, then you must take this question. If you are not, we'd still love to see what you've got to say so that we can all take a look at this and to see how we compare to our peers who are on today's webinar. Quick reminder, actually we have a bunch of questions piling up and our time is starting to run short, but if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. We'll do our best to get them answered either now or after the event if we don't get to them. And we're going to go ahead and switch back now and get back to the main program. So here we go. We'll move on to the next and take it back. Scott, please.
Great. So we only have a couple more slides here. I'm going to fly through these last slides so we have plenty of time for questions at the end. Essentially, life in our finance department before chatter, a lot of things I've said already. Customer interaction was not available to data. The finance department has become customer service. I think you all know there's just an email, can I get this information about this client or that information about this report? We were more responsive than proactive. And the financial information was not always readily available. Sorry about that, trying to go through this a little too quick just to get done. After chatter and after integrating Financial Force, we now have a system where customer interaction data is readily available to finance and those outside of finance. The finance department spends significantly less time emailing. Relationships with other departments have become more collaborative and most importantly, less work because people outside of finance can see the data. You're not being interrupted all the time. Everyone, anytime I've ever given this talk, everyone says, well, that's great. Well, what about the ROI? And I can tell you there are some great YouTube videos on ROI and social media and what have you, but I'm essentially going to just talk about the ROI of moving to a financial system in the cloud. I think there's two ways to look at ROI, and I think you have a great business case for both of them here. First of all, it's in easy to measure ways. We've reduced our month-end cycle. And that's improved our performance and ability to make decisions significantly. For others of you, I know you'll be able to improve, your AP, AR turnaround, what have you, and you'll really see improvement in your business that can be measured. Reduced IT costs, we talked about this. Less IT employees, less IT consultants, less servers, less office space. It's very easy to see, especially when you project over a 5 to 10 year period. Savings. And I think you could stop right there and make a great business case. But some of the other ROIs that I think are very real but more difficult to measure are employee satisfaction and engagement. I don't know if your organization relies on Great Place to Work and some of the engagement scores that HAR does, and I can tell you our engagement went up significantly. Less sick days and temps, and I'm not suggesting that people are having more fun and they're going to be sick less, but I'm saying when they're home, when they have to take 2 days off for a knee surgery, you have a lot less sick days and a lot less temps because you have the ability of some of your key people being able to work from home. And increase the efficiency. My last slide, and then we'll get to questions, is why now? Why is this the right time? And I'll just tell you it's really transformed my job as CFO in my department. So I can be everywhere. And what I mean by that, I probably should have said I can be anywhere. But I can be in my office. I can be in LA at a meeting. I could be in Thailand at a meeting. I could be working from home. I can really be anywhere, and I can see the data and have access to the data easily, and I can actually make decisions off it. I can attract and retain talent. I can't emphasize this one enough. I think this is only going to get more difficult over the next number of years in finance and accounting departments as these startups start up, and a lot of younger employees especially want to be part of that. I think if you can show that you're an innovative finance department, you're really going to be able to attract and retain talent. And I can share my data more easily, which at the end of the day is really what this is all about. There's a certain element of our job that is certainly accounting and compliance to do financial statements and to do what regulations call for us. But we want to get our data out there so the business can make better decisions. And I think this has allowed us to do that. So with that, I'll wrap up. We'll take some questions. I just want to really thank everyone for coming on the phone call today, and have really enjoyed it. And wish you the best of luck as you determine your cloud future.
Scott, thank you so much for that. That was great information. Always nice to see firsthand what people are doing, how they're doing it, what the results have been, et cetera. We have just put out the third and final poll question. Let's go ahead and dispatch that quickly, if folks would. And we will then quickly turn these poll questions around, and we can all see where we sit, and then we'll work on getting a couple questions in. We're just going to have to move fast here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave another 5 seconds here for answering this poll question, and then we'll go ahead and take a quick peek at the results of the polling questions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this one down right now. Now let's go back and start with the first poll question. And I'm popping that out right now. Okay, how long have you been using your current accounting software? And presumably this isn't just you personally, but how long has your company been using your current accounting software? 52% 4 to 10 years. Tom, is that normal?
Yeah, I think it is. You know, talking to people like Brian Summer, I think in general we find people churn systems anywhere from somewhere around 7 to 10 years. Somewhere in that time frame. So it looks like there's several on the call that are ready to turn over. Looks like there's roughly, let's say, 27% past 10 years, which actually seems a little high to me. But you know, it takes a lot to change a system, and hopefully, you know, some of the points we laid out today will give people the inspiration to do that and get off those older systems.
Gotcha. Let's just really quickly hop through these other results, and actually we might just take a quick peek at them since we have a number of questions in order here. Does your accounting finance group use collaboration tools today? No, 2/3. Some folks considering, I guess that's not horribly surprising given the nature of the finance organization, which Scott mentioned a little bit earlier. And I am going to go ahead and just pop us into the last one so we can take a peek at the third. Do you see your organization moving to cloud accounting down the road? 54%. That is interesting. Tom, are a lot of the folks you're talking to having the same sort of epiphany that Scott had?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as I said, there's a lot of things that move people. You know, let's say you do change every roughly 10 years, then 10% of everyone will be in the market each year. I think the thing that has actually slowed us down recently is the economic downturn, or the sort of the toughness of the economy over the last 5 years. So people are just hanging on to what they've got, and as soon as we see an uptick, you'll see that number spike because people want to make changes because of all the reasons we talked about.
Gotcha. Okay, let's run through some questions quickly. Scott, frequently we hear about IT opposing moves to the cloud. I don't know if that's an urban legend or not, but we certainly heard that from a number of CFOs. And I've got someone here asking how you managed that move. Did your IT organization feel threatened? Was it done in partnership with finance? What did you guys do on that front?
Well, for us, we moved to the Force.com platform first, so we were on Salesforce, and as important as financial data is, everyone knows how important information is about your clients and your customers, and the fact that Salesforce and the Force.com platform had already been thoroughly vetted and no issues, which I don't even know of any issues globally on it, but certainly no issues for us, they became moving to Financial Force very easy. And I think that's one of the things I talked about, where knowing what platform you want to go to becomes very important. Because if it is just different systems, best of class, it is going to be a battle with IT, especially in larger organizations, to say this is another new cloud system that we have to verify.
Right. Were there any big surprises, either negatives or positives, in moving to cloud accounting?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest positive surprise was a couple of the naysayers, how quickly they picked it up. You know, there was definitely a healthy amount of skepticism around some people, like, is this the right thing to do? It seems like we should just use our current system, and how happy everyone is in it. I think the difference is when you're on one of the old systems and something's not working, the way you want it to be, you're pretty much down to it's never going to work, or I have to hire a consultant. And I think with one of the new systems, when it's not, you know, no product is perfect for you every way you want it, but you have an ability to engage in the users group, and you can have an ability to see the quarterly changes, and you have an ability to know that, hey, this is going to happen soon, and we can have a workaround, but it's being addressed, and I'm confident because they're changing so rapidly. And I think that was the biggest surprise for us.
Interesting. A couple questions in this next area. I'll try and just kind of pull them together. How did you go about vetting your cloud, your potential cloud, you know, providers? There are an awful lot of cloud providers out there. Not all of them are going to survive. And obviously you have to do your diligence up front to have confidence in your provider to make sure they're going to be there tomorrow and the lights will be on tomorrow. What did you do on that front?
So a couple of things. And one thing I think CFOs in general don't do a great job is having peers that they talk to. So I established kind of a peer group of CFOs that we could talk to about this, and we talked about different entities. Again, a lot of reading, a lot of research, a decent amount of conference attending, set up live demos with the 3 or 4 or 5 main ones. But yeah, a lot of, really our decision came down to 2 entities. And both of them, from their support, one of them was more long-standing, one of them, Financial Force, was newer, but with their backing, Salesforce being an investor, and some of the things being done, we had confidence, and their background, I should say, they have a background with some other entities of quite a bit of stability, that we were confident that they were going to be there for the long haul.
Okay. One more quick question, which is, our organization is dependent on extreme client confidentiality. How do you address this item? Scott, how do you view confidentiality of your company information, and kind of how do you get over that hump?
Well, that's why we love our current system, is because you can set up your workflow however you want. The certain organizations, if you wanted to restrict what people can see, you can put those restrictions in. Down to the user level, down to the role level, you can do whatever you want. Where other systems that you just take it out of the box, it is what it is. And so we don't have that extreme issue. We had some other extreme issues that we set up our customization for. But if it's a good system, and that should be part of your vetting process, is are we able to set this up in certain ways? You can certainly do that.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you. You know, we have a number of questions that we haven't been able to get to yet. What I'd like to do is ask whether I can work with Tom and Scott to get some answers to those questions. Maybe we'll pop them out on Performative so everyone can see them. Would you guys be willing to give us a few more minutes after this, and we can work on how we make that happen?
Sure.
That would be great. So quickly, let me thank Scott and Tom for your time and insight today. Great content, and this is definitely one of those times where an hour just feels like it's not quite enough, because you guys know so much, and it was wonderful listening to it. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Quick reminder up on the screen here, you'll be prompted to take a short survey. We greatly appreciate your giving us your feedback. And if you would like to connect with folks at Financial Force, that's a click of a mouse away, so that's very easy to do. If you have any questions about CPE credit, please contact Chris Brower. You can see her email address right there. Certainly join us at performative.com to continue the discussion. We'll work on getting the answers that we didn't get a chance to get to due to time constraints up on Performative. And it's just a great place to ask questions of your peers. Finally, great thanks to financialforce.com. Just wonderful information today. chock full of great nuggets for folks who have any sort of interest in moving their accounting and finance applications into the cloud. This was wonderful information, and thanks for helping us make this and everything we do free for all the users at Performative. One last note, you can download the slides, as we noted a few times up front, at performative.com/resources. The deck is already there. Within 24 hours, we'll have an actual recording of this webinar, which will also be up. And, of course, we'll send an email out after the event that will have links to both the deck and the recording. So you'll be able to pass it around to other folks if you'd like. And with that, I would like to give one final thanks, which is, of course, to the attendees. Thanks, everyone, for your time. We know how busy everyone is these days, and we appreciate your giving us this hour. We hope to see you again, either online at performative.com or at another event in the near future. And we wish everyone a great remainder of your week. Take care, all.